Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's Charles and you are watching Charles Salbox TV. So in today's video, I've planned to highlight 7 of the most deadly technical sins that beginners make upon entering sparring. These are typically some of the errors that will irritate your coach and make him want to shout at you from the ringside. So guys, please remember, this is my own particular list. If you have your own, please drop it within the comment section. I'm going to demonstrate and discuss some of the problems here and then give you the corrections so that you remove it from your habits within sparring. All right, let's get straight into it. The first technical sin that I want to introduce you to is the lack of balance. Now, normally when we have beginners that enter the gym, they can normally adopt the stance position and they know where to keep their feet. But as they tend to move, what slowly happens is the habit of narrowing the base and then the raising of the hip so they're upright. With any object, if you maintain a good base and lowered center of mass, then you're able to maintain balance more efficiently. Formula One cars, you see that they have a wide base and they are lowered. So with the speeds that they reach, they're able to stay on the ground and maintain balance. What I would tend to do to correct this error within beginners is ask them to have maybe 3 teaching points. So lowered hips, flexed knees, keep the knees light and loose, and then keep the base separated by a comfortable distance. And then, take a step, check if their hips are still lowered, check if their knees are still, has that buoyancy, and then check if the feet are an appropriate distance apart. The next technical sin that I want to introduce you to is poor movement. So when a boxer adopts the stance, the correct stance, and has good balance, let's say, we might see that he takes a big step with the first foot and then a small step with the second foot. This lack of coordination will leave the boxer out of stance after a few movements. And then the second thing that would attribute to poor movement is the crossing of the feet. The crossing of the feet that I'm talking about is where a boxer has trained to move like this, like that, but then he makes the error of stepping to the left of the left foot and then overstepping with the right foot. Also, another aspect of poor movement would be the pivot. What we want to do is raise the front heel, push on the back foot, control that angle that they move through by asking them to pivot to 90 degrees. So a 90-degree pivot, asking them to be specific with the footwork would be the way how I correct the problem of poor movement. The next technical sin that I want to introduce is telegraphing. So when a boxer steps into the ring and attempts to strike their opponent, is often reflected either in the face of the beginner, the shoulders of the beginner, the arms of the beginner, the hips, and sometimes also the feet. Just a demonstration of what telegraphing would be when you thrust your arm back to try and throw a punch. Also, the face can display a certain level of intensity that you undergo where you are trying to tense up to throw a punch. Now, to correct this issue, you want to first of all push up from the back foot, keeping the body relaxed, and have a poker face, be completely calm. Then when you push off, extend and make sure you synchronize the extension of the arm to the landing as opposed to stepping of the front foot. So it would be propulsion from the back, extension here, and then landing there. Now, the next technical sin that I want to introduce you to is reaching. So when boxers see their opponent and feel that they can land a punch without correctly identifying the range at which they want to throw the punch, that can be the reason why a boxer may want to reach. Overextending themselves beyond their base, causing them to buckle, also causing them to be susceptible to counterattacks, Even when you do reach for a punch and land a punch, you have to understand that your hips will undergo a lot of stress, and the benefit that you gain from actually landing the punch will be offset by the stress that increases at the hips, which will then inhibit your normal movement after you've landed that punch. It will fatigue you earlier. What you want to do is make sure that you slowly ease towards the range that you are normally comfortable at throwing, and then use feints and also pawing with your lead hand so that you can slowly ease into the correct range and remove the tendency of reaching for punches. The fifth technical sin that I want to introduce you to is the lowering of hands after punching and also during a more defensive mode. Obviously, there are situations where more advanced boxers will tend to leave their hands down because they've identified the correct positions at which they should place their hands, and also understood the correct times at which they can lower their hands. Now, this shouldn't be confused with beginners that slowly remove their hands from the safety position unknowingly, and when they throw punches, and then because they've landed the punch and they forget to concentrate on the defensive aspect that is required straight after landing, obviously attacking and then defending. Normally, you have to remember that throwing a punch creates an opening for your opponent against you. So you have to remain defensively responsible when throwing punches and after bringing your hands back into the defensive position. What you want to do is always practice the idea of throwing a punch, coming back here, okay? Throwing a punch, coming back here. When you're throwing a punch with this hand, it's always important to keep the other hand up. If your opponent catches this and then throws a punch back simultaneously, this hand being in this position will ensure that you're still defended. When you throw this punch, to keep the left hand up to make sure that you're defended on the opposite side. Another aspect of lowering your hands is when you are moving around the ring and you're focusing on your movement and you're focusing on your opponent. Sometimes a lack of concentration might make you lower your hands unknowingly, and then you're just getting hit. So what you want to do is keep drilling the technique of moving and remaining defensive. So your coach might use the pads or the sticks, the foam sticks, to hit you as you're moving around. And then this will keep you in a constant state of good movement and the hands up. The sixth technical sin that I want to introduce you to is loading up. Now, whenever you have a beginner in sparring, sometimes they can become the most dangerous people to spar. Not because they are executing strategy, technical proficiency and tactics seamlessly. It's because they're doing things that are unexpected, unnecessary, and it can also be dangerous for themselves, so even causing injury upon themselves. But one of the things that I often see beginners doing is loading up on every punch. Now, this is just due to possibly the anxiety of being in that situation. You will fatigue yourself, exponentially if you're throwing hard shots all the time. I've seen boxers step into the ring, throw maybe 1 minute of hard shots. It seems like they're pressurizing their opponent, but their opponent was simply waiting for them to fatigue. Once they fatigued, then their opponent just started picking them off with lighter shots. So this would be an example of how some of the boxers load up. So they're pivoting on both feet, following through the target, tensing before they reach the target, and then obviously that will use up considerably a lot more energy than the more traditional style where you're relaxed and then you propel yourself with the back foot, boom, and then you're impacting and then tensing just at that point. So where you go to relax the hands and then just before you impact, you tense and then use that to bring the hand back, okay? That will be more of an adjustment to loading up and then throwing your punches in a more controlled style. The last technical sin that I want to introduce you to is the chin up. With the chin, we have to remember that that is a vulnerable area where you can always get knocked out. When you hit the chin, your head goes through a rotation and it changes the alignment of your head. So in this position, momentarily your brain deciphers that this is the true alignment to maintaining balance. Your brain can actually hit the inside of your skull and then can cause a concussion. And then the feet are no longer able to set themselves to the floor to create a good stable foundation for you to have balance. So taking up the correct stance where you have your right hand on your chin in a lowered position, okay? You raise your shoulder slightly and then your chin is in between your fist and your shoulder here. That will reduce the likelihood of your opponent being able to hit your chin and rotate your head to cause the eventual knockout. Okay guys, as you can see, we've come to the end of the video. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed watching the content and found it very insightful. Obviously, this is my own particular list of 7 most common deadly sins that I see, technical sins that I see committed by boxers within sparring, and namely beginners. If you have your own list, please leave it within the comment section. If you also have any other video suggestions, please drop that in the comment section as well, and I'll see if I can get around to creating content around it. Let me see, what do I need to say? If you've liked the video, please hit that like button and share it to anyone you feel may benefit from watching the content. Also, please hit that subscribe button to stay connected and the notification bell to stay informed of any new videos that I'm uploading to the channel. So until my next video, keep training, stay blessed, peace.